Welcome to Gracefully Graying. Today we are thrilled to have Adita Lang out of Miami, actually, sunny Miami. We encourage you to visit our Gracefully Graying website, gracefullygraying.com, and visit us on our YouTube channel, search for Gracefully Graying. Adita is a health and lifestyle guru, and Adita, we welcome you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yeah. So tell us, first of all, about your background so that our audience knows who you are, what you do, and we'll start with that.
Well, I have been in the health and wellness industry for over 30 years. I started back when we didn't have any kind of specialized flooring or shoes or anything. I literally taught group exercise barefoot on concrete, and we used records. And I would change the song by changing the actual vinyl record and going from there. And so since then, my career has just been really very exciting. I taught at the very first fitness conference that was in LA back in 1985 and 86. Traveled all over the world putting together specialty fitness programs for different health clubs and health club chains. And then at the same time, too, in parallel, working with different clients and setting up their fitness programs and wellness programs as well. So currently, I've just finished publishing 2 different books. One is called Superpowers, A Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness, and the other is Superpowers of the Family Kitchen. And I also work with corporations around the globe these days, especially because we're virtual, putting together wellness programs for them, doing lunch and learn type activities, and really trying to teach as much as I can to make health and wellness an easy part and a seamless part of the day.
Right. Okay. So you kind of do it all.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness. So explain to me what that is exactly. How did you do that? What is the content? Why should people want to buy it and read it? Tell us about it.
Well, when I was single and just, fancy free, I would actually privately, of course, make fun of my clients that would come to me late with stains on their shirt and like frazzled. And I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. So after I had 2 kids, I got it like really hard. And it got to the point where I was just like, okay, I don't feel good. I'm not energized. I'm not having fun anymore. And this doesn't make sense to me. So I basically kind of took everything that I know and I said, okay, I need a plan and I need to figure something out that works better for me. Mm-hmm. So as I was doing that, I was feeling better. I was looking better. And my friends kept saying, what are you doing? You look better. And you're just like more energized and you're happier and everything else. I said, listen, the bottom line is we have to seamlessly fit health and wellness into our day. And health and wellness is not just going to the gym. I call it the 4 pillars, and that is going to be your exercise and movement, sleep and relaxation, food and nutrition, and happiness. And you have to balance all 4 to be truly healthy. So the Busy Woman's Guide, although a man could actually take it too, because it's not really specifically for a woman, right. But the reality is it's how do you seamlessly place these healthy habits into your day, which is going to make you feel better, give you more energy without it feeling like, oh, I got to go to the gym one more time. Mm-hmm. I make fun of myself because in the early days, I used to tell people, listen, you need to go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week for 60 minutes. And then when they got back to me and they said, oh, I only made it in 28 minutes, I'd be like, what are you doing? You didn't get done what you're supposed to do. And shame on me, because what ended up happening is, and a lot of my friends were doing the same thing, more and more people said, I don't have 60 minutes. I'm just not going to go.
So it's almost like if they're not going to do the full 60, they're just not going to do any of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And more people kept falling into that thing. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that helped spearhead what I did with the Busy Woman's Guide was that the American College of Sports Medicine came out and said, listen, we've gone cray-cray with the whole exercise thing. Activity is defined as anything that increases your heart rate and makes you break out into a sweat. So first and foremost, it doesn't mean it's the gym. It could be gardening. It could be walking really fast through the mall. It could be doing house cleaning and house chores. So we need to give ourselves credit for those minutes. The other thing they said is that the minutes didn't need to be consistent, that for a novice participant, they need 150 minutes a week. And for the more advanced, about 300. Right? But it doesn't need to be consistent. So now I'm encouraging people to do what I do. Wake up in the morning and do 2 sets of 2 different little exercises, and then add in a little pep in your step during the day and do the stairs a few times. And you throw in these bouts of exercise and all of a sudden you've got all your minutes in.
Right. I mean, that makes sense no matter where you live. I mean, you happen to be in Miami, so it's nice and warm. I am in Michigan. It's not so nice. It's slippery, it's icy, but the point is, you just kind of have to make your own activity and figure out what's good for you, correct?
Oh yeah, I have friends of mine that just basically they turn on the music, they set a timer and they dance like nobody's watching for
Right.
35 minutes.
Right.
And there you got your activity and you're inside.
Right. Um, Tell us about the Superpowers of the Family Kitchen. I know that that's another publication, and that's a kind of a whole different section, an avenue of what you do. So tell us about that.
It is, again, I have two kids. So I have a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. And feeding them to me has been a very, very important part of our life.
Mhm.
Most people, it's very interesting because I deal with families now all the time and they just kind of feed their kids just to get them fed. Oh, they're not eating. Let me just give them mac and cheese or something. And that's not necessarily working because what we feed our children is creating the health foundation that you and I have today. So a lot of our health challenges as adults stemmed from our foundation of health as a kid. So the family kitchen is really designed to teach parents, how do you feed your kids for brain development and growth? I mean, that's what we're doing. We're growing adults. So how do we feed them so their brain gets supercharged? How do we feed them, especially now with Corona, so that our immune system is strong? These are the different aspects of it, but at the same time, too, dealing with picky eaters and dealing with, some kids who just don't want to eat. So it's really trying to break down an understanding of food, but in a fun way where it becomes part of the family kitchen.
Right, right. So what are some examples of great foods that you always have in your kitchen?
Great foods that I always have in my kitchen. I always have Brussels sprouts. We love roasted Brussels sprouts. They're just yummy. I try to make sure that every meal and snack has a specific amount of good quality protein. And that good quality protein could come from an animal source, it could come from beans, or it could come from raw nuts and seeds. And I use that word raw because many people think, oh, peanut butter and roasted nuts.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work that way because once they're roasted, the fat composition changes and it becomes unhealthy for us. So we want to have really good skin and hair. We need to make sure that we're adding in the raw nuts and seeds. So that's a really good thing. And most kids, if you think about like just a school age kid, they typically will have a bowl of cereal and milk and go off to school. Well, unfortunately, the bowl of cereal and milk, because it's a carbohydrate and it breaks down as a sugar, it breaks down and digests very, very quickly. So by the time they get to school, all of a sudden they're going to be distracted, not paying attention. And it's not necessarily because they have an attention issue. It's because they're hungry and they don't know how to verbalize that. So if you pack your kid with a good quality breakfast that is really just high in protein and fat, then they'll stay satiated through school, get through school lunch, move on to the next part of their day without having that internal thing of being hungry. And I think that is probably one of the biggest lessons that I teach parents is really how to keep your child satiated, but without putting them in with all the sugars. And this applies to us adults.
I was going to say this has to do with the, over 50 crowd too, and older, seniors, right?
I'm dealing with that right now. So I teach for an organization called Silver and Fit. And then I have a couple of other private groups. And we had a big discussion about it the other day, because a lot of times, most of my groups, they don't want to cook or they don't want to do this. So they're trying to kind of snack and pick on crackers, on, a cookie, on this, that, and the other. But all of that breaks down as a sugar. Because it's not just sugar, it is sugar, flour, dairy, and alcohol. And it all breaks down. Your body interprets it all as a sugar. But the thing with the sugar is that, first off, sugar is addictive. It's 8 times more addictive than cocaine. And it makes us feel comforted. And so when we're stressed, which was the group that I was talking to the other day, they all feel stressed. They've been in the house for a long time. They don't like it. They feel like there's a loss of connection. They're not seeing their friends. And so there's this stress that goes on. And so they're eating because of the stress and they're feeling comforted. And that's what they're using those foods for. So I'm trying to tell them let's try to kind of change our perspective and let's change the foods that we're eating so that we don't have that amount of sugar going into our system. And then, of course, on the same breath, let's work on some other ways of socializing when you're changing your perspective during this time.
Right, right. And speaking of during this time of COVID, I mean, stress is huge for a lot of people. Yeah. And I'm sure that people are are eating stuff that they don't want to eat, that they shouldn't be eating, and maybe it's okay sometimes, but, trying to have a good nutritional balance right now while exercising, it takes a lot of discipline.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So tell us also about the importance of, we talked about nutrition, exercise. How about rest and sleeping?
So ideally, we should wake up ready to just start our day. The average person wakes up like, oh, let me hit that snooze button 12 times, and oh, it's horrible to get out of bed, and et cetera, et cetera. So what ends up happening, so when you hit the snooze button, you actually inhibit your mental clarity for up to 4 hours. So you want to get yourself to the point of waking up feeling rested, but where do you get that? So I love the Fitbits and all of these exercise tracker watches because they have a sleep cycle chart. And to me, that's been imperative because it actually can show somebody if they're getting those deep sleep cycles or if they're not, and then we can work on what they're lacking. So in a perfect scenario, you're getting about 6 deep sleep cycles of 60 to 75 minutes each. And with that, you should be waking up whenever you want to wake up, like feeling great.
Right.
But what happens is that there's various things in our bedroom, in our lives that interfere, that we don't wake up completely, but we wake up enough to disrupt the sleep cycle. And unfortunately, with a sleep cycle, you can't go back into a sleep cycle and finish it. You have to start a new one. And every time you start a new sleep cycle, that's disrupted sleep. And then there's these, different disrupted sleeps throughout the night. So I really try to work on, let's figure out the night. And my quick checklist is your room should be pitch dark. And the funny thing is that we don't give credit to those little itty bitty LED lights, because the thing about them is that if I asked you to close your eyes right now and I shined a flashlight on your closed eyes, you would see the light. And so we are asleep. We're in a deep sleep cycle. We roll over and one of those little itty bitty lights beams us in the eye. And we don't wake up fully consciously, but we pull ourselves out of the sleep cycle until all of a sudden we roll over again. And then we fall back into another sleep cycle. So something that simple we need to address. The other thing is making sure that the room is colder than usual.
Right.
And the third thing, which I think is just so important, especially for all of these little electronic devices that we like to go on, is to go into your display settings and set the night shift or night shade. So what that does is it takes the blue light out. The blue light stimulates us to be awake, right? But if you take the blue light out, you get a little bit of a yellow connotation on your screen, but that removes the blue light so that we can continue to do whatever it is that we're doing on our, iPad, TV, computers, without it stimulating these awake hormones that we don't need awoken at that time.
Right, right. And all of this plays into general happiness, again, exercise, nutrition, sleep, happiness. Again, this is kind of a stressful time, but, if we can achieve happiness right now, it can only get better, right?
Oh, absolutely. And again, I think one of the things that I have seen with a lot of the people that I deal with, it's your perspective. It's all about perspective. I've taken this time and I made the decision, okay, you know what? I'm going virtual. We're going to do everything virtual. And I made the shift and I changed it. But I have other friends and family members that have had a really hard time. They don't like the lack of socialization, although they could socialize virtually, but they don't want to.
Right.
And so then they put themselves in this negative cycle. And if I've worked very hard with some clients to really pull them out of that negative cycle, because it's about your perspective.
Right. But I think also part of it right now is people afraid of technology and not sure how to get on, which really, inhibits their sociability right now, or their efforts.
Oh, no,
especially
absolutely.
With seniors.
Yes, I have. So I have a group of 52 seniors apart from Silver and Fit that we do a virtual exercise class on Zoom. And they have to get on Zoom. So I had to do a cute little video of how to get on Zoom. Some of them I actually masked up, shield up, went to their house, helped them set themselves up to do whatever I had to do to get them on there. But yes, people are kind of afraid. Once they get on and once they realize it's a go, no problems. If one little thing like almost like our little challenge that we had today happened, if one little thing happens, a lot of times it throws them off. And so I've created these like fun little worksheets of like, what do you do to try to fix it so that we can try to make this as seamless as possible. But no, that is a very big concern. And the several organizations, I know that a couple of the community centers here in Miami, they put together classes to teach them how to maneuver all the electronic gadgets. So that way they can see their family members too, and, be a part of family meetings and birthday parties and all that happen to be on an electronic device.
Right. Yeah. It's just, it's tough. So what are some additional ways to boost your immune system? What do you think about that?
Here's my top, and I went through a little at the very beginning of COVID. I went through a big rampage with a lot of my clients, and because everybody was like, hand sanitizer this, mask up this, but yet they're drinking Coke and they're eating, a cracker, and they're doing all this stuff. So kind of going back to what I said earlier, sugar is not just sugar. It's sugar, flour, dairy, and alcohol. And sugar inhibits your immune system for a period of time. Mm-hmm. And so to kind of make this as easy as to think about, I want you guys to just join me on this journey for a second. To my right is my garden. To my left is my front door. And if I invited 10 of you to come over here and help me in the garden, we're going to move bags of dirt, pots, everything, and we're going to fix my garden. But UPS just showed up and dropped off some boxes. So now 5 of you left my garden to help me move the boxes. Okay. The 5 that are left in the garden, it sounds like a math problem. It's really not. The 5 that are left in the garden are like, I can't lift these big bags of dirt and I can't move these pots. So let's sit here and let's wait till those guys get back. And that's what happens with your immune system and sugar. You ingest something, a cracker, a cookie, a soda, whatever it is, you ingest something that your body translates as sugar. It basically steals nutrients from the immune system to help break it down. Once it's broken down, those nutrients go back to the immune system. But for a period of time, your immune system is on pause. And this is the time we don't need that. We don't want that at all. So minimizing your sugars is huge. That to me is first and foremost, making sure that you're fully hydrated. And hydration, my rule of thumb is 8 glasses of water a day, add in 2 more for anything caffeinated or alcoholic. But at the end of the day, make sure that your urine is clear.
Yeah.
If it's slightly yellow, if you look at it, it's yellow. That's your sign that says, whoa, I need to drink some more water.
Not enough water. Yeah.
Not enough water. So we need to be fully hydrated. We need to minimize our sugars. And then we need to eat foods that are providing us with ample nutrition. So when it comes to fruits and vegetables, the darker, the richer the color, the more nutrition it provides. So something as simple as, do I eat iceberg lettuce or do I eat kale? Kale's darker. It's going to give you more nutrition. Green grapes or black grapes. Black grapes, those win, right? So thinking of it that way and trying to add in more color when you're making a salad, when you're putting together a smoothie, whatever it is that you're doing, but making sure you're bringing in that color into your day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. I must admit, I'm very guilty. I have to have chocolate every day, and I eat chocolate chips a little bit in the afternoon every day. It's my guilty pleasure.
What about a dark chocolate?
Oh yeah, it's not milk chocolate. It's a darker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a better choice.
Yeah.
That's a better choice. And listen, and ideally what you do is you make sure that when you are eating a sugar, you're eating it with other really good foods so that you make sure that your nutrient supply is always extra filled up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of a bad habit, could be worse, I guess. So what about, a guide to weight loss? I mean, do you have a program for that? Do you have, talk to us about weight loss, like a 6-week guide to weight loss.
Okay. So in my Superpowers, a Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness, there's a whole food plan laid out in there, exercise regime, everything. But to keep this really simple, I said earlier about the 150 to 300 minutes of activity per week. Mm-hmm. So trying to get in those minutes of activity, really trying. And here's the thing is, if you just think about your day, just that whole thing about park further away, use the stairs, anytime you can move. And I say this to all of my senior clients all the time, is lift heavy things. It's very sweet when someone comes up and says, let me carry those bags for you. But I'm always saying, no, please don't worry. We're good. I've got it. And I've got it.
You have to lift it properly though.
You have to lift it properly. Absolutely. So you got to use your abdominals and your core in order to lift things up. But one thing that I have seen is a lot of times as we age, we're kind of like, oh, they said they'd carry that. Let them do that. Or let me call someone, let them do that. And we stop doing. And when we stop doing, our body's going to atrophy. We're going to start having more aches and pains, and it's going to be harder to lose weight. So make activity just part of your day. That's the first thing. When it comes to truly fitting your food plans to me are really simple. The average person eats too many sugars. So my whole thing is you get 0 to 1 sugar per meal and snack, and you got to make choices.
What do you like when you say 1 sugar? What amount would that be?
I don't like to do numbers for people. I have found that it never works. I've got clients that come to me counting calories, counting macros, counting all this stuff. Let's keep this really simple. So, and I had this discussion with a client the other day. What does he have for breakfast? Coffee, cream and sugar, toast, jam and juice. That's what he has every morning for breakfast. And I said, okay, no, you got to choose. What are you not willing to give up? And he says, I'm not willing to give up my coffee. I said, fine. You keep the coffee with the cream and the sugar. Everything else has to be protein and fat. What are we going to have? I mean, this was like a 30-minute discussion back and forth. We finalized it with 2 eggs and slices of avocado.
Okay, good.
So coffee, cream, sugar, eggs, avocado. Beautiful.
Right.
Okay. And so you can think of it the same way of, I don't know, if you're going to have a sandwich, decide, do you want bread or cheese on that sandwich? Make a choice. Or do you want sweet tea? You got to choose. Or are you going to go out for dinner? Do you want wine? Or do you want pasta, bread, and cream sauce? You got to start making choices. So if you want the wine, then that means your dinner's got to be all protein and good quality fat.
Yeah. It's about making choices for sure.
Absolutely. And if you follow that and you minimize the processed foods, which are all your sugars, right? You minimize those, the weight will come off.
Right.
But most of us are eating more of the sugars. And again, it's sugar, flour, dairy, alcohol.
Now, how about bread? Bread is kind of such a comfort food. How do you choose your bread? I mean, a multi-grain bread.
That's the flour. That's going to break down as a sugar. So, that's, again, making choices. So your choices are, you have a white bread, you have a multi-grain bread. Well, the multi-grain bread is going to give you a few extra nutrients. But at the end of the day, they both break down as a sugar, bottom line. Okay. And the same thing is, I think the hardest thing for me to get out of anybody's diet is dairy. Dairy is the hardest thing for me to eliminate from anybody's diet.
Although as we get older, you need the calcium from the dairy.
You get more calcium from a handful of raw almonds than you do a glass of milk. And the reason being is that milk is pasteurized. So what's happened with our dairy in the United States is it's heated at incredibly high temperatures, which kills the digestive enzymes of it. It kills most of the nutrition, and then it's fortified. So a scientist makes all this stuff up and adds it back in, right? So our body doesn't digest it the right way. You're better off increasing your Brussels sprouts, your broccoli, your almonds, all these other great foods into your day-to-day food plan than you are focusing on milk and a piece of cheese.
Interesting. Our diets change and our systems change as we get older.
Absolutely.
So you have to do what's good for you and know what you can eat and know how, and portion control, is a huge thing too. So, what other tips? Now, you also have these great classes. I know you have a stability and balance class. You've got a ton of great classes that we feature on our site, and we're going to continue to do so. Tell us about, stability, balance, why that's so important. Obviously it is.
Well, I'm going to kind of share with you the story of how that started. So I had my group of seniors at this community center that I teach at, and we did a little lunch and learn one day. We were talking about nutrition, actually. And I made a comment just on the fly. And I said, listen, as far as I'm concerned, when you're designing your exercise program, you've got to get up and out of a chair and get up and off the floor. And you have to walk secure with your feet. And one of the ladies raised up her hands and she says, what do you mean get up and off the floor? And I've always had problems getting out of a chair. And I said, no, 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 wait, stop. And I recognized at that point that they were all, I knew the classes that they were taking. I knew the instructors, and the classes were fun, hoopla, and all this kind of stuff, but none of them focused on the muscles needed to keep their stability. Mm-hmm. So I created a 4-week balance and stability training. And I the way I promoted it was, it's not a fun class. It's kind of like going to an educational class. You're going to learn what you need to learn so that you can then take those other classes without a problem. And so all of a sudden, because of that, I got this huge following of everybody. They'd come in with their walkers, with their canes, and they got there like this and they left like this. And I was like, yes, this is what we're doing.
Great. Yeah.
Because one of the things we've done as a society, what do? We wear shoes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And your toes are what help you with your balance and stability. Mm-hmm. So one of the first things, and we have in our video series that you have access to, is I teach people to take a tissue and to pick it up with their toes, because they got to get those muscles working. And they've got to start becoming more focused that if I'm balancing, I'm using all my toes. That to me is the center of it all. Between the toes and learning to pull your shoulders back and down and lift your chest up, that is golden right there, because that's centering your body weight and then really using your toes to stabilize you with your feet.
Yeah, that makes sense. You don't normally think about that, but it definitely is so important. I did a great interview earlier today on breathing. It all kind of goes together.
It does. Absolutely. Yes.
So we only have a few minutes, so what are some final thoughts that you could share with the viewers, as we get older, kind of in general?
As we get older, definitely hydration is a must. Moving as much as we can is a must, of course, in the right way, right? Learning which ways we need to be moving our body is important. And eating the right kind of foods. You said something earlier about everybody's digestion kind of changes. Well, at the end of the day, all of our digestion is actually different. So I can't, and in my book I state that too, is I don't have a specific diet. I don't sell a diet to anybody. We have to discuss what kind of foods work with you. And we have to figure out what kind of foods work with you and what your habits are and how you like to eat. Do you like to graze or eat certain meals? And with that, you figure out what your food identity is as opposed to my food identity. And that is very important. No foods should make you feel gassy or bloated. If they do, there's an intolerance there that you want to address.
Right.
You should be able to digest your foods easily. And so if that's not happening, then that's something that you need to look at too. But foods are meant to, I always say that food is fuel for the body, bottom line. So our foods should empower us to have energy and to do whatever it is that we want to do throughout the day. And that's really important.
Yeah. Well, that all makes sense. Exactly. Common sense. Sometimes we just have to be reminded of this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, our time has come to an end, but you know what? We'll get you on again. We'll talk about balance and stability. Maybe you'll do some exercises for us. That would be great.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
So viewers, thank you for joining us. Find us on our gracefullygraying.com and on YouTube, search for Gracefully Graying. And Adita, we thank you so much. Enjoy your day in Miami, sunny Miami. And we thank you for being a guest today.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah.
Take good care.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks.